Here we are. Here we are. Your HBCU aunties and uncles back at it again, enjoying each other's company and conversation. I am Mia Ferguson, along with my co-host Tyon Anderson and our man Andy Brown, here to continue the wonderful conversation that we left off with, dating while in college. On our first episode, we all knew that this would be a definite two-parter conversation as we delved into what our experiences were, and we knew that Andy, being our uncle, had a lot to say from a male perspective, and two women here who love to hear what the men have to say. So, Andy, we're going to turn it over to you so we can totally get engaged with the conversation from your perspective of dating while in college.
Wonderful. Thank y'all, ladies. Let's just dive right on into it. Folks, when we're talking about the dating perspective, you have to realize when the ratio is in favor from women to men. In other words, what I'm saying is if it's the campus is 5-1, 6-1, even 4-1, you don't necessarily have to weigh your options down to dating one particular person. The numbers don't lie. You don't have to do that. So fellas are going out there, they're introducing themselves, whether they're playing ball, they're going to class, whether they're seeing someone in intramurals, or even in the cafeteria. You're going to run into somebody different somewhere. The paths will not always meet. So you don't always have to commit to that one person. Can I get a witness?
I don't want to say amen.
I
don't want to say amen. Wait a minute, Andy. Hold on.
Listen.
Okay,
Mia, I touch and agree with you. I don't want to say
I agree with him because the numbers don't lie. So you're right. But I don't like where this is going, and I'm saying it out loud.
Mia, again, I'm gonna touch and agree but I see a perspective here.
Oh God.
If your mindset is, and you're clear about communicating what your mindset is, I can see where it's gigolo time.
Oh, that's where we're going. Okay. But are we clear at 18, 19, and 20? Andy?
Thoroughly.
Oh, we're clear? Hold on.
Thoroughly.
So you mean to tell me at 18, 19, I was 17 entering into college. So you mean to tell me at that age, we are clear about how we're about to run this game as a male.
You don't know what you don't know. So therefore, the term sight unseen goes without question. Okay. How many times, ladies, were you on campus, thought you met somebody that was really cool and saw him with somebody else, and he acted like he really didn't know who you were at the time?
Oh, that was my whole boyfriend.
Refer to episode 1.
That same boyfriend. Been there.
So the numbers
like episode 1.
He acted like he didn't know we went to church every Sunday.
And that was
that
on
boy
Tuesday.
acted like he didn't know we came to campus together every day.
Talk about it.
Yeah, well, he's also one of the Okay, I don't want to be triggered anymore about that because I healed from that. But Andy, let's go back to your numbers. I love statistics. I think our campus was like what, 20-1.
The numbers won't lie. So therefore, you really don't have to commit up front because you don't know what you're committing to. When you move around such at a very young age, you're on different college campuses, you're coming away from home. So you may be experienced and exposed to something that you've never seen before. The culture is different. The vibe is different. So you're curious, and you're allowed to be curious because you haven't even taken all the classes to get your degree. Fair. Therefore, to be certified in your legitimate course of study. So how can you say that I'm going to commit to somebody right here on this college campus when I don't even know myself what I'm studying, what I'm taking, what I'm applying for? My education is all around me. Let the party begin.
Oh, I love how you're going with this. So now this is not only a playground of education, and I'm not saying playground like we're here to play. No, let me use the better word.
Oh, it's a playground. Let's call it
so
what
we can say playground. So not only is this a playground of education where we get to figure it out, but the other playgrounds exist as well, which we can use that word. So we're going to use playground. Okay, Andy, continue. I love this. Okay, I'm listening.
See, the prophetical poet said back in '89, you must learn. KRS-One.
You must learn.
So you have to really get to, and you have to know yourself, right? You have to know what you're getting into, what you like. because you don't. Let's be honest. What you saw in high school isn't going to necessarily transcend to what you're going to see on the college campus.
100%
The
facts.
vibe is different. The atmosphere is different. The attitude is different, and the accessibility is different.
True.
That part.
So time spent gives you a little bit more awareness to raise that curiosity to get to know Keisha over here from the East Coast. Now you get to know Tanya over there from the South. You also get to learn a little bit about Sean from up north. And if you have to take it there, that foreign student that really doesn't belong in the
Isabella.
States. Come on now.
This sound like a DMX song.
Numbers
This sound
don't
like
lie.
a DMX song.
Rhonda,
Numbers
Shonda.
don't lie.
Right.
Numbers
Like,
don't lie. So
numbers.
what your relationship is going to speak to, and you really have to be clear about this. And I'll speak to everybody when I say this. And ladies, y'all can help me with this one. The type of music that you listen to gives you an influence of how you're going to treat that person that's in front of you.
Now listen, I have a whole conversation on how R&B is needed nowadays because of that very
It
thing.
surely
These
is.
folks don't know who Lionel Richie is, talking about hello. These niggas say, I don't know WID. But okay, well, we're going to skip past that because I want to continue hearing about I like where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And as a woman, I respect it. And as an older sister, I gave my sister that advice when she went to college because I wish I would have been single when I was in college.
Why
but
is
also,
that?
I'll say this: me going into college still with that Mac Mama mentality. Yes, I'm claiming it, but at the same time, getting kind of put on my behind because I did experience what I thought was love and emotion for the first time. But then after that, after the debacle and coming up, I'm trying to be the phoenix rising out the ashes. And again, I had that mentality, new day next.
Nigga.
So it's a mix of emotions. And Andy, again, from the male perspective, it's totally different because we may have had a preconceived notion as to what we expected from that spectrum of love and relationships. You actually just said coming into it, I don't know what to expect. The campus is my oyster. Let me dibble and dabble. And
but
it's
Andy,
okay.
how
And
did you?
in hindsight, that's the part that I agree with. In hindsight, it's okay to dibble and dabble, but as long as you're setting the correct expectations up front, I am who I am. I do what I do. How would you like for me to you?
But can I be? Do we think? Oh, hold on. From an 18-year-old's perspective, do we really think that they're entering into the conversation with honesty? Because we know that that's not happening, right?
Why not?
We had to learn.
Okay, Andy. So you tell me how you entered it, Andy. No. Forget that, Andy. Were you single when you started school?
My freshman year in college, I was not.
Okay.
I got a girl back home.
You had a girl back with the eye roll. Okay, my point exactly. But you're coming at this now as a mature adult.
Mm-hmm.
But when you were the 18-year-old entering into school your freshman year, you had a girl back home. So were you thinking about Keisha, Rhonda, Shaquanda, and Alicia?
Actually, no. Not me per se.
Not you, but okay, so how did you roll out your freshman year?
Yeah, the focus for me was, listen, I'm wanting to play college football. I'm on the team. I made the team. I'm here with the older guys who are nearly 20 years old. I'm here to play ball. I'm here to do what I want to do. And my focus is not on any other females. However,
that's real political.
The more you expose yourself to on-campus activities, the more you expose yourself to classroom studies, study sessions, study partners, and even just getting to know different people around your college campus and your atmosphere. That person that's back home stays back home.
So how long did your relationship last, your freshman year?
Well, I was different.
You're not gonna scoot over there.
It wasn't me. My high school sweetheart decided to move on and kind of sent me the message. What was that song with TLC? Creep.
Oh,
that was it. Yeah, she let me know that that's what she was doing. So hey, I I could surrender my flag and say I can go ahead and play now.
Oh, so you got the walking papers.
Oh yeah, big time.
Okay. And so then let's go into the rest. So was that your whole freshman year or like somewhere in between
That
your
was the entire freshman year. Yeah.
Okay, so then when you came back
Freshman,
sophomore year, take us to your sophomore year. What that look like?
Sophomore year was wide open.
Was it because your heart was broken and you were retaliating?
Actually, it was because the dating game was effectively different in real life than I was told in person. I mentioned this in a previous show. I was taught how to date. My mother taught me how to date. Open the door, be a gentleman, be respectable of ladies. But that wasn't, for some odd reason, it wasn't received well.
Because the opposite, and that's a whole nother conversation, probably for a different time, because people are not taught how to date. So I was also taught how to date. So you were taught how to date. So, but what you realize is that 99% of the people we come in contact with are not taught how to date.
And didn't want to be
I wasn't because I was discouraged from dating.
Copy.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. I told you, I remember my mother said, but my mother was books before boys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So sophomore year, wide open.
Yeah.
What did that look like?
The numbers don't lie.
This nigga.
Body count.
The numbers don't lie, meaning what, Andy? 20 to 1?
Thyself. Well, no. Nah. And think about it, the ratio still stands. You're sitting in numbers to where it's what, 6 to 7 to 1?
I think higher than that. Actually.
Yeah. Because not a lot of black men are going to college. A lot of black women are going to college. But hey, the world is your oyster right here in the circumference of this campus.
Right.
You can do what you want to do and live in color. You know what I'm saying?
And live in color. Absolutely.
So fellas, I encourage you, understand yourself before you commit to your major. And understand all the classes that you have to go through. And I'm not saying you're going to relate women to classes. I'm just saying that what you're going to have to do is understand each level of what it takes to move to the next person. Next level in your communication and your dating experiences.
So can I go back to a point that Mia made before at your 17, 18-year-old and 19-year-old self, Andy, asking you, do you feel as if the old adage that women mature faster than men came into play here? Because again, if we're 17, 18, 19, and we feel that there's a possibility of getting an MRS while we're here and we only got 4 years to do it, so that could be in our plan. And we're also romanticizing things in our mind and we're looking for that fairy tale. Were you mature enough to be able to have that communication that Mia just talked about as far as where you were going to go? And were you actually even thinking mature like in your approach to, especially coming up on that sophomore year and really understanding what the numbers were? Were you mature enough to assess how you were going to proceed, knowing that, again, the numbers are in your favor, knowing that you are overcoming a breakup, but then you still got 2 years left? Were you really trying to figure out? And were you mature enough to figure out what your romantic, your love, your relationship trajectory was going to be?
I feel like Tyon just turned
I was mature enough to figure it out. No, real talk. I was mature enough to figure it out, but I chose not to because I didn't have to.
Wait. I wish I could just take that clip and send it to the 2 boyfriends I had during my college experience. You chose not to. I feel like you just admitted for the world what boys in college really thought versus what they did. You chose not to. Speak on it, Andy. That's why you the uncle. That's why you Andy.
You don't have to. Again, the numbers don't lie. Why, if I'm 17, 18, 19 years old and I still have not finished my course of study to get my degree, so I don't even know how I'm going to make my income.
Facts.
Right?
We was out here loving boys that didn't even know how to pay a bill, ain't had no money.
Exactly.
How was we loving them?
And actually, I won't even say loving boys, because remember, Mia, my my college sweetheart was still 3 years older than me.
Well, you know how much
older.
You know how much older mine was than me. at first, the first one. So yeah, okay, Andy, continue because I feel like I need to take notes. I'm getting my book now.
Now it's not it's what the real thing is. You just have to come to understand that this is what I'm doing, and you have to be comfortable in knowing I'm committing to the game. Now, I may not be a healthy game. It's a lot of risk involved. I'm committing to the
You're
game.
committing to the
Did
game,
he
not
just
you.
admit that he was
Yeah,
committing to the game?
I'm committed to the
Yep.
game because I got two,
I'm writing
maybe
you on
three
my
more
will.
years here
I'm writing you on my will.
on this campus,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got time to figure out whatever it is I'm doing. I haven't even taken my 400 level courses yet. I haven't even met with my advisor yet on my next step. So I'm on here. I'm on this campus. I'm taking my classes. Not really, and let's face it, folks. While you're taking your classes, you're not really thinking about what I'm gonna be doing in the next 2 years. We were at the grasp of the information age.
Fact.
Technology, things are moving very,
Fact.
very fast.
Yes.
So by the time you get your degree, the information that you learned 2 years ago is obsolete. So what am I going to be doing in the next 2 years? I don't even know. I don't even know when the next Tupac album is coming out. I don't even know what the next.
Don't forget Tupac died when we were in college.
You see what I'm saying? It's the
Right.
small
I
thing.
had graduated, but go ahead.
It's
Okay.
just the fact that I don't even know when the next Denzel movie's coming out. You don't really know, if you're watching sequels, I mean, or series, you don't know when the next release is going to come out. So you're just finding your way to be fly. You're finding your way to be fashionable. You're finding your way to be cool. You're finding your own way into adulthood through your own style and confidence. So
Mm.
where do you get your confidence from? What says I need to be confident? My book smarts?
Mm.
Probably, right? My athleticism?
If
Perhaps.
that's your area. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. My social status? It really depends on where you have to find your confidence in. So if you're getting your confidence from female attention, that's going to boost it up. So this one number over here says I'm okay, where 15 more could be telling me the same thing.
Mm.
You got to play your numbers, right? And you got to feel where you're getting the most energy and gravitate to where that energy is giving you back something that you really want.
Mm.
So, Andy, validate something for me. So, we talked about your freshman year. We talked
Mm-hmm.
about your sophomore year. I'm not sure exactly which year you pledged, but validate for me. Did your dating life change after you pledged? And give us some insights,
Absolutely.
please.
Yeah. No doubt. The dating life must definitely change. There were girls and women who would not talk to you if you were not a part of a fraternal organization. Y'all know that.
Really?
They weren't really dating you, they were dating your letters. Let's be
Mm. I
honest
didn't
about
want
it.
to date
It was a
anybody with
different
letters.
experience where we were and the time when we were on campus, because I'm just gonna say this out loud. Some people might get mad at me if they watch this in hindsight, but I'm gonna tell you, on our campus, the frats wasn't it. It was a couple
Nope.
auxiliary organizations. It was
Yeah.
a couple, I guess, if you want to call regional sectors of certain kind of dudes, but the frats, I
But he went
mean,
to a southern school. I
he
mean,
went to
even though we
southern
went to a
school.
southern school too, Morgan, but it's different in the South. It's a lot. It's just they looking for husbands. They looking for I'm a
Mm,
Delta. I want a Q. I'm a Zeta. I want to. They're looking for all that. We were like, if
mm,
you got letters, I'm not really looking at you. I was like, no desire. No
And
desire.
at the same, I mean, I'm not gonna say that there weren't those. I mean, remember, there are some that came in with that mentality, or some that were stricken and
Mm.
love struck by letters. But there was a huge percentage of our campus that was like, y'all corny,
regardless of the organization.
regardless of the
Regardless,
organization.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
And
So
I'll
it's
say this: it wasn't a lot of. And Mia, tell me if you agree. I mean, we were there all. There was a point in time that we crossed paths while we were there, but again, I think I was still a little ahead of you. But tell me whether or not you agree with this or not. We weren't even sweating the athletes like that either.
no, not really. So we were in school during the Jiggy era. So what you were speaking about, Andy, about the fly guy, like
Mhm.
we had that was the era, like the dudes that were stunting, the ones who had the Eddie Bauer truck. I can see it right now, the Eddie Bauer trucks, the ones who had the cars, because of our school's location, we had a lot of people from like New York, Philly, DC, and everybody was kind of like in their zone of who was the tightest, who was the flyest, who was the this. Yeah. We had the jiggy parties, so it was a little different. But I see where you're coming. But I think your first statement was the truest about not knowing your fly, who was going to be attracted to your fly, finding this thing. Like I saw guys literally grow through those phases in school. Came in the little dude who ain't nobody really know, found his little swag. Next thing you know, they still fronting off that swag 25 years later. Like, it's still a thing. It's so hilarious.
It's funny that you say that, Mia, because there's a particular person that I have to remind, like, I knew you before you were swole. Because that was another thing.
We talking about the same person. I 100%.
Like, I knew you was a pipsqueak, and then all of a sudden you start hitting the gym and you done got swole. Like, I knew you before you were swole.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Hope you ain't missing leg day though, bro. You can't miss leg day.
And actually, to this day, I don't think he missed too many days. I mean, again, that became life for him.
Yep.
Because again, that changed his whole trajectory. That's when the thick neck brothers' heads started getting thick too.
For sure. Thank God, I met a lot of cool dudes. But I do want to, Andy, I think you hit it. I wasn't ready. I love where you came from with your whole sector of maleisms. Right. But one thing we haven't talked about, and I'm sure we all knew, is that you had the folks who were single, you had the folks that were in relationships, you had the folks that were in multiple relationships, and then you had our friends that had kids.
Yeah. Tough to
date. Another part of the relationship matrix in the college space. Some came to school with kids.
Yep.
Some ended up having kids while in school with someone there.
Right.
Or having a kid with someone who was at another school, and the school friends became the village. So what those relationships look like, I definitely know I looked at it like I was not mature enough to be anybody's mama.
Yeah.
While in college.
But
we had parents who are amazing parents who were
I had to be that village in college, and I think that was one experience that actually prepared me more for what parenthood could look like. But I had to be that village in school. I was just counseling my son in one of his friendships because, again, it happens. Right. And I mean, I know people who had to leave school because of said situation where somebody can remain. Somebody can remain out of the situation, can remain, but somebody's got to go. Because, again, or trying to navigate that space where, again, it's that good balance. And I will say this about, and I can't speak on it from a PWI standpoint, but I do know that there are a lot of HBCUs that have been very accommodating for situations like that. Because, again, coming in, regardless of what happens, we want you to succeed. And even if that's your village, if that's your administrative village, if that's your whole school community, like, what can we do? We immediately became aunties and uncles then,
Yep. And watch some great people grow into being great parents and watch them navigate through that. And I even then, and I can say it now, such strength, right? Such strength in just being consistent about completing the process, such strength about being intentional about being a parent, such strength from the friendships around them about just supporting them, folks holding a baby while you in class, you got an exam to take, you go pick up, those who had cars. Like, I've seen it, but one thing I didn't see in that space was the duality of parents, being that it was usually the girl, unfortunately, who was being the one who was being the parent, and the guy was somewhere else being the young guy, because the young guy wasn't Andy? Wasn't ready, hadn't figured out his major, didn't know what life was going to look like, but had a kid.
So let's open that door, shall we, just a little bit further?
Sure.
Now, this single mom who's raising this child, these children, going to school. She's got a lot on her plate, right? That's a lot of pressure to get that degree, to make sure these kids are okay. You know, going to school, going to class, making sure that their children are taken care of. Not only to mention that, but even that they're eating right, they got the proper nutrition, and that they're covered. Do you really have time to date with that much on your plate?
You had time
I'm
to.
gonna say this. I'm gonna just give you an example
What?
of
You
everything
had
that you
time.
just said.
You had time to have sex.
That point, Mia, but also in my circle, they had time to pledge.
I was just thinking that because I know two who were mamas in school and pledging.
So
Because
what
women
So
do.
takes
does that speak to the
hierarchy?
resiliency and the maturity of the women? Going back to the question that I asked of you before.
That was a question.
So where do the priorities really lie? Like that's a lot to balance. That's a lot to balance, ladies. That's a lot to balance. So from a guy's
Well,
perspective, we don't see all
happened.
that. We ain't even looking at all that.
Right.
Is she fine? She got kids, which means we're not going to be the first, right? That's the mindset on the guy side.
Okay.
So where's the part? Where does he fit in? How does the dating aspect even become a priority at all? And where does that fit on the totem pole during that college time frame? Oh,
That's a good
did a hush
question.
fall over Jerusalem just
I can
now?
comment
The
as
hush over Jerusalem.
I can comment as an unevolved Tyan.
Unevolved.
Because again, pardon my French, but again, to your point, y'all just didn't give a shit. Like, hey, divide and conquer as much PP as possible on campus.
Okay. With the
I mean,
kids
and
though?
I understood that game when I went there because, like I said, when I went, I kind of had a little bit of, I was feeling myself in school as well, but I did get caught up in the fantasy of having a relationship because, again, relationships were quote unquote forbidden for me. I wasn't supposed to be there for that. So I had to look at, things from another perspective. But again, that unevolved me at that time was like, hey, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that was one of the things that also got me kind of labeled as, as you think like a dude too much.
Yeah, that happened to me a lot too. So, Andy, I want you to respond to that. And then I think I have a great conclusion to all of this. I'm going to share mine. Of course, you guys can share yours. But respond to that. Just, I'm sure you came across girls who were like that as well.
Oh, definitely,
I'm
definitely.
sure you
So
did.
you, yeah, you don't really necessarily know where you are on the priority list. You just know that hey, that's a part. She got this going on. She may or may not take me seriously, but from the male perspective, is this going to be my responsibility in full? Do I have to make sure that she goes to class on time? Do I have to make sure that these children are going to be taken care of? And do I have to make sure that we are doing this together for us to move to the next level? That's a lot of commitment.
It's a
That's a
lot.
lot of that's a lot of things that you got to realize and put into play. So especially when you have not even developed your own status and your own degree and your own understanding of where you want to be in life, it's a lot to put on that plate.
So we've all said it in different ways, but it sounds like the conclusion is even though it's something that you want to utilize your time for in some assets, some in some ways, it seems like we all agree that the college years, though it's been embedded in our heads that you're going to find your husband in college. That seems like that's the time frame in which you should even be thinking about what your husband looks like for multiple reasons. And I'm coming from the 48-year-old Mia, and I reflect on the 18-year-old Mia, and I reflect on the 28-year-old Mia when my sister was going to school. And the message is very clear. You can have a lot of fun, meet a lot of good people, you can date, but the serious aspect of it, I like how Andy, I ain't gonna lie to you, and this is what I was definitely told too back in the day that me and you definitely have a lot of male characteristics. I like how Andy said it. I mean, meet people. Somebody from Jersey, somebody from France, somebody from New York, somebody from Florida.
Canada.
Like, don't feel like you have to lock yourself into something when you haven't even figured out what your something is going to be. I like
You
it.
don't. But one of the things that I want to come back to too is college. Those 4 years is probably one of the last times that you'll have that pool of folk that have similar interests, similar ideas and ideals and everything before you have to go off into the workplace and dedicate yourself to adulting and everything that comes with that. So actually this pool is kind of using it as kind of shaping and looking for that one that is mostly readily available. Because again, once you cross that threshold into adulting, how much time do you really have to date? Like, I mean, and I know that there's still a period of your 20s that, I mean, for me, that period of from, 21 to 28, where I'm still like, exploring things, but depending on what metropolitan area you're from and how much people actually socialize, that's the last time you actually going to see everybody or mostly everybody grouped in one spot where you can start kind of picking out and having more choices. Like your choices are more readily available versus once you graduate and that pool starts to slim because you're lifing.
Agreed to a certain point, but I definitely feel like I barely feel like 18 years old is still too young to even figure out what you want to be in life, let alone having to drag somebody along with you and figure out who that person's going to be. Not drag them along, but you know what I'm saying. Like, I personally feel like there's even a television show right now, like these girls who are driving themselves crazy trying to get married before they graduate from college. Are you serious right now? Like, I feel like that's a lot. And I just think that some of those old ways obviously have changed. People have kids without being married. People, have lifelong relationships, not necessarily being married. I just think that if I had to do it all over again, if I was 18 again, I definitely wouldn't have gone into school with the first relationship I had, and I definitely wouldn't committed to the second one I had. The second one I had lasted until I was 23, 24. But and that was from my sophomore year of college till 24. And I regret it because that window of learning other things and other people, I didn't have it. I was focusing on this one dude who just was anti grow up. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think that Andy had great points and a great perspective from how men looked at it. Well, young men looked at relationship statuses in school. And as a young girl, I wish I would have had a friend who would. Now, I did have homeboys who did say these things, but those homeboys were homeboys of my boyfriend. So that's a whole nother conversation because I was locked in, right? But I think that if we looked at it realistically, 18, 19, 20,
I'm gonna take it even further because even after I graduated, I ended up dating somebody from college, and it took me 20 something years after we broke up to say, you know what, I really dodged a bullet, because if I see what and how he is now, I would have been miserable if I married that man.
Miserable. So I think that I'm gonna say it one more time. We all saying the same thing, but three different ways.
Yeah.
Take your time. Don't feel like you have to get pressed into a relationship. It's okay to have a dude you like. It's okay to go out with him, and it's okay to have another dude you like.
Know yourself.
Love yourself. Love yourself. Have fun with yourself. Have fun with your friends. Travel to different schools. You meet a lot of different people. Don't feel like you have to get caught up in that relationship, because at the end of the day, you are still growing and you're still learning yourself, and you're going to continue to learn yourself. And I think if the aunties and uncle could say one thing, even at our age now, we're still learning ourselves.
Yes.
Completely. So I think that's a good way to wrap that conversation. Your HBCU aunties and uncles. Sign it off.
Peace.
Peace.